Okay, time for a quick procurement overview. Essentially the idea of procurement is to help people buy what they need and to get it all recorded and under management, and we do that with Coupa. With Coupa, there are 5 different ways for people to buy things. The whole idea being there are 5 different ways to submit a requisition, get approval, and then buy what you need. The first and the primary way is just to enter a search. You enter a search here, hit enter, and just like any place else on the internet, you get results that you can browse. If you see what you want, all you have to do is add it to your cart. And then you have the option to review your cart right away or continue shopping. The second way is to browse. Browse lets you see what kind of different commodities your company has set up and what items are available under those commodities. When you're browsing, you can actually filter your results up here. Notice though that the search results look just about the same. If you scroll down here, for this particular commodity, I actually have a couple web forms set up and a couple policies that apply. In Coupa, we always do a search for web forms as well as policies when doing search results or browsing different commodities. In addition to searching and browsing, you'll also notice we have write in over here. This is because searching and browsing are limited to only the catalog items that are hosted in your Coupa instance. Sometimes users may want to buy something else, but we still want to get approval for it. When that happens, they can come in here, type in whatever it is they need. For example, a professional technical writer. Even services are fine. Just hit the services box and notice our settings change just a bit. And then they can enter the supplier, commodity, and so on and so forth that they need to before adding this item to their cart. There are 2 other ways to buy items. One is to shop online through punchouts. These are supplier setup websites, and once users go to these websites and then click what they want and add it to their cart, they'll be taken back to Coupa for the checkout process. And then there's iRequest. iRequest is actually a bookmarklet tool which helps generate free-form requests. The bookmarklet would show up right next here, say right next to where I have Spotify, and it would say iRequest. Then when I was browsing a website, say Amazon.com for something, I could find what I wanted, get to that page, look at the items, and then click the iRequest bookmarklet. Coupa would automatically take that information and plug it into a free-form request for me. In all 5 different scenarios, the main idea is to generate a requisition or a request. Your cart is actually your requisition. So let's have a look at that now. It's actually your current requisition. In here, you'll see the requisition header, which has some basic info, who it was created by. If you want, you can fill out on behalf of to specify a user to fill it out on behalf of. In fact, let's do that now. Once you do this, Coupa will check that user's default settings and apply any defaults from that user account that apply here. For example, billing defaults might apply, in this case they did not, or department might be defaulted off of that user account as well. An important note about these fields down here is that they are custom fields. You can add custom fields of any type, numbers only, text, a text field, a text box like up here, or a date field even. This lets users customize their requisitions that fit their business needs. Down here you'll see the requisition line and the billing info. Notice the billing info is set up on a line-by-line basis. Hopefully you'll have good default accounting set up based off of the user record or the commodities that are being purchased, so this stuff will fill in automatically. You can even make it so that users cannot choose the billing account or the billing periods. In this case though, I'm an administrator and I don't have my default set up, so yes, I can edit that information. You can also click the line item and edit its details. Notice more information pops up in here. And notice we also have another custom field, another date custom field labeled up. Even project number is a custom field. So again, we allow custom fields at the line level item and at the header level item so that users can customize Coupa to fit their business needs. Once you're done editing the item, go ahead and hit save. There's one more thing I want to note about billing. This period is set up for budgets. If you have budgets set up and you let users change them, you can change these here. And then on the right, users can see what kind of impact their requisition will have on the budget. There's also split billing. If you allow this, you can allow users to split the billing for this item between 2 different accounts. And you can use these handy slider bars to adjust what percentage each account should pay for this particular item. In this case, we won't actually split the billing. Finally, you'll notice the approval chain down here. Now, this approval chain is not set up 100%. Coupa will typically look at your custom approval chain rules and a user's management hierarchy, or one or both of these options depending on your settings, and will automatically build this chain. Currently, no approvers are being added for Tim Durkin, and he doesn't have a self-approval limit that's high enough to approve this record. Therefore, we're calling in the ultimate approver. If you ever want to know why someone's been added, just hover over their name, and in this case, the requester has no manager defined under their user record, but we want to build approval chains off of management hierarchy. For more details, see the approval training there. Once the requisition is all set, you can submit a comment if you'd like to, and then it can be submitted for approval. We'll route this through the approval process. And then, if the requisition is approved, it automatically turns into a purchase order. I'm going to act as an administrator to show you just exactly how that happens now. So you notice this is the requisition I just set, and keep in mind basic users won't have access to these tabs. These are admin tabs, but because I am a Coupa support and I am an administrator, I can jump in here. And here is the requested by Tim Durkin as an expense user pending approval. That's the iPad we just ordered. Let's take a look at this requisition now. Notice its status is pending approval. That's because we submitted it, but it hasn't been approved yet. It should be approved by Victor Pierre, and he received a to-do notification as well as an email about this. But rather than wait for him, I'm just going to bypass approvals and make the order right now. That way you can see what our purchase orders look like in Coupa. As soon as the requisition has been ordered, a purchase order is created. Coupa takes care of this automatically. And if the suppliers, depending on the supplier's information, we'll actually send this purchase order out to the supplier right away. Here is their PO, number 326. You can see the requester, Tim Durkin, as our expense user, and a little bit of info about the supplier. Notice the status is issued. Let's take a look at the details of this PO, just so that you can see everything on the purchase order level. Here's the purchase order header. All of this information was pulled over from the requisition, and here's the PO line. This was pulled over from the requisition line. Right from this screen, you can create an invoice. If there's been a change, I can revise it and send a revision to the supplier. And depending on whether or not using the Order Online feature, you can click this button, or you can have the PO resent to the supplier again. Let's have a quick look at the supplier print view. These can actually be customized depending on your business needs on a COA by COA level. That's your chart of accounts. But essentially, this is a good way to understand exactly what the supplier will be viewing. You can print it here or send it in an email. That's purchase orders in Coupa. Now let's actually flip this purchase order right into an invoice. We do that with this button here. Depending on your settings and the business needs, invoices may be sent to Coupa many ways. The invoices generally, though, are going to be created by the supplier. In this case, you're creating it so that you can enter all the info in here. Some notes, you can even attach an image if there's a physical invoice you want to attach, or other attachments if there are notes. And then you can view the line-by-line item, and you can even reference the old PO line that this invoice came from, and enter in any additional charges that have come in. Depending on your Coupa settings, you can actually have this invoice get sent to approval if it breaks any tolerances. For example, if you've actually been invoiced either incorrectly or correctly for an additional amount, you may have a tolerance set up to say, hey, this invoice came in at a higher price than our purchase order did. We want to approve it before we actually pay for it. But if it doesn't fail any tolerances, or if you don't have any tolerances up, when you hit submit, it'll go straight to payment. Oh, don't forget the invoice number. This is important. Notice this screen, the invoice checks failed screen. As an administrator, you can choose whether or not this should be turned on or turned off. This is engaged when an invoice breaks a tolerance or when a supplier settings require that invoices be routed for approval. In this case, we tell you, whoops, the invoice could not be approved as line 1, invoice unit price compared to PO unit price differs by more than 5%. This is a tolerance we have set up for this chart of accounts. Therefore, we're going to send this invoice through approvals, and we're going to see if we're going to check all of our invoice approval chains and then create something. In this case, we have a pretty involved approval chain which adds test dummy and a few other guys to it. When you see the screen, you also have the option to add additional approvers, and you can add them with or without their management hierarchy. In this case, I know what's going on, so I'm just going to click bypass approvals. Coupa will update the invoice, and since it's been bypassed for approvals, its status will be changed to approved. In other words, we can send that out to our AP folk and they can pay the invoice. That's a quick overview of how to purchase things in Coupa and the flow from requisition to purchase order to invoice. We go into each of these in the settings of them in more detail in other classes.